I'm really glad our baby was born safe and sound. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. That's all right. Just having you here, Derek, is enough for me. Let's get together and win happiness. Those words made me feel sick to my stomach. But I couldn't just leave like that. I finally reached for the door. After a light knock, I opened it. Hey, who do you think the father of this baby is? As I entered the hospital room, I responded to Jessica's words and looked up. Oh, well, who's that? Is it someone we know? Samantha, we have no idea, right? Derek interrupted our conversation in a panic at those words. Jessica's pompous attitude for no reason and Derek's flustered attitude all seem ridiculous, and I scoffed. Of course, I know. Congratulations. I wish you all the best. Make sure you two make that baby happy. Then I left Derek behind and walked out of the hospital room. The two will surely get what they deserve. There is no future for them to be happy as it is, after making people unhappy. I was headed to some place to prepare a new future for them. My name is Samantha. I'm a 37-year-old housewife. Born and raised in a rural area. I have one younger sister. I grew up happily as the eldest daughter of an ordinary family. After high school, I worked as an office clerk at a local company. There was nothing flashy about it, but I enjoyed my days earnestly. That's when I was introduced to my husband, Derek, through work. Derek was the son of the president of our client company, Mr. Parker. He was 3 years older than me, and seemed almost too good for me. Chris, the executive director who introduced Derek to me, said to Mr. Parker, Derek's father, Samantha is very diligent and precise in her work. She has a good reputation for being kind to our clients. If Chris, who seldom praises anyone, says so, she must be a wonderful young lady. My father-in-law, John, liked me from the first time we met. Derek also took a liking to me, and we started dating, leading to our marriage when I was 33. I quit my job and became a housewife. Everyone celebrated our union. However, there was one person who felt differently. That was my sister, Jessica. Jessica, 10 years younger than me. My much younger sister was the long-awaited second child born after my mother, Sue, underwent fertility treatments. Because of this, she was very much doted on and spoiled by the family. Of course, I also adored Jessica very much. I want to eat custard pudding. But this is your sister's. You had some yesterday, didn't you, Jessica? It's okay, I'm good. Let her have it. In this way, I often indulged her little whims since we were young. As a result, Jessica developed a personality quite the opposite of mine. She became good at being pampered. For better or worse, she grew up to be someone who always expressed her opinions clearly. I don't want to wear your hand-me-downs. They're ugly and I don't want to wear them. When she was in elementary school, she rejected my hand-me-down clothes, troubling our mother. Though we were a normal family, we were not particularly wealthy. I too wore mostly hand-me-downs, but I never complained, even if I didn't like them. It's not that I think Jessica shouldn't complain just because I didn't, but I do think it's important to learn to endure. It's not ugly. Sure, it's a bit dated, but it's still perfectly wearable. If I talked back even a little, she would even get sassy and say, "You don't even notice how lame your clothes are because you're a lame sister." Admittedly, I may not have been the most fashionable person. But I took good care of the new clothes I was occasionally bought and my mother kept them clean. Since I didn't care much for flashy things, my wardrobe consisted solely of basic items from versatile brands. I thought they were perfectly fine for Jessica to wear. But it must have been the mere fact that they were hand-me-downs that she disliked. Still, we were blood sisters. Unknowingly, our tastes were similar, and the clothes my parents would buy for Jessica were all the same ones I had, in the same colors. But still, my parents and I spoiled Jessica because we cared too much about her. Jessica's selfishness became even worse when she was in high school. Asking for pocket money and buying cosmetics, bags, or anything else she wants right away without holding back. If she didn't feel like going to school, she'd skip. If she wanted to go out, she'd head out even in the middle of the night. By this time, instead of just spoiling her, our parents scolded Jessica many times for such outrageous behavior. Searching for Jessica late at night wasn't a rare occurrence for our family. Even when my parents refused to give her money, she would sneak off to our grandparents' house, who knew nothing about it, and secretly begging for pocket money. No amount of preaching or restricting her behavior would change Jessica's mind, who had been unrestrained since childhood. I spoiled Jessica too much. What if she gets dropped out of school for slacking off like that? Though our mother seemed to feel responsible for Jessica's behavior, Jessica managed to graduate from high school without further incident. And then, she managed to find a job. The whole family was relieved, but shockingly, she quit after just 1 month. I was astonished that she would say something like, "There's a stinky old man here," which wasn't even a reason to leave the company. Afterward, she flitted between being a part-time worker and quitting, reaching the age of 23. Now an adult, neither our parents nor I would say much to Jessica anymore. Even though she's been a part-time worker, she has been working steadily without quitting for the past 2 years. Becoming an adult seems to have taught her a bit about personal responsibility, and she appears to have settled down somewhat. However, when I got married, she wanted to quit her job too. "I'm too jealous that you marry the son of the president of the company and become a full-time homemaker." That was Jessica's first words when I told her I was getting married. Even though I'm a homemaker, I still have to do housework, and I'm willing to do simple company duties at home without pay. Even when I tell her that, she seems to be envious of the very idea of quitting a job. House chores can be done quickly, and business tasks are just a few minutes' work, right? Even so, I can't cut corners. Right. Besides, it must be hard to keep up with relatives when her father-in-law is the president of the company, isn't it? I don't think she'll ever feel at ease. Our mother supported me, but it was hard for Jessica to accept. This is just something to hold on to until your in-laws are dead. Your father-in-law is old, and in a few years, you'll be the wife of the company president, right? What the heck are you talking about? I was deeply upset by Jessica's remarks. It seemed that Jessica could tell I was upset, as she laughed heartily and said, "I'm just joking." But I wasn't in the mood to laugh, and our parents were simply dumbfounded by her remark. Despite everyone thinking Jessica's joke was too much, she actually quit her job shortly after. "I quit my job, so I'll start doing the household chores tomorrow. I'm going to be a homemaker." She never even helped our mother before, and now we are all swept away by her sudden statement. I would get married and leave home in a few months, but I felt sorry for our parents who would have to continue to live with such Jessica. I can't believe she actually quit her job. When I sighed, my parents just gave a wry smile. We thought she had calmed down, but it seems Jessica is still just a child. Even though it's okay now, what is she planning to do in the future if she doesn't settle into a stable job? Even though it's her responsibility, the parents surely worry about her. Well, let's just hope Jessica doesn't cause any trouble for Samantha. Right. You need to find happiness without being swayed by Jessica. In the end, I was married and left home, unable to do anything about Jessica, who insisted that she was a homemaker. Because that's how my marriage started, I was still concerned about my parents' home after marriage. My parents-in-law were kind to me and there was no inconvenience in my life, but as I had expected, being a homemaker is hard work. Besides the housework and work I had expected, it is dizzying to have to deal with relatives and prepare gifts for company relations. Even though we lived separately, my mother-in-law, Linda, would often visit our house to teach me various tasks, saying, "It must be tough being married into such a family," showing concern for me. No, I understand because I went through it too. But let's take things easy and not overdo it. If you try too hard, you'll stress yourself out. Linda said this with a smile, teaching me various things. There are a lot of things that are hard for a housewife to deal with, such as dealing with her in-laws. Some friends commented on how tough it looked, but Linda always cared for me and would even prepare meals while I was busy learning the ropes. I was deeply touched by how wonderful my in-laws were. "My parents are really happy that you became my wife." Derek also said so. Gradually, I became more integrated into his family as a daughter-in-law. 2 years after our marriage, I was blessed with our long-awaited first child. My in-laws were overjoyed. Derek seemed excited about the arrival of our child too. However, contrary to this happiness, I had a concern. It was about Derek's suspicious behavior. Lately, he had been taking his phone to the bathroom and having a lot of business dinners, which reduced the time he spent with me. As he was spending less and less time at home, I was worried that he was getting tired and said to him, "You look busy these days." "I'm about to be president. It's hard with all the calls and appointments." However, Derek quickly returned his attention to his phone after giving a predictable reply. Since becoming pregnant, I had slowly become anxious about Derek not spending time with me. One day, however, I suddenly wondered if Derek was having an affair. It happened when I glanced at Derek, who was looking at his phone as usual. His face was far too giddy for what was supposed to be a work-related message. That expression unsettled me. Oh, something came up suddenly. "I'm heading out." Sure enough, immediately after making that face, Derek spoke to me. "What? Right now? President Bennett is always in a hurry. Have a good night's sleep and don't worry about me." Then, Derek rushed out of the house. I found it unbelievable. What kind of emergency could there be at this hour of the night? I woke up to my husband leaving his pregnant wife alone in the middle of the night and going out. For the sake of my unborn child, I decided it was time for Derek to face reality, so I finally hired a private detective. Sometime after that, I received a call from my parents. "Jessica has been taken to the hospital. Please come as soon as possible." I was shocked by the news. Since she was taken to the gynecology department, I thought perhaps she had suffered an ovarian torsion and hurried to the hospital. "Is Jessica's examination over? Is she okay?" Upon meeting up with my parents in the waiting room at the hospital, I asked them. It turns out she was pregnant, and she started labor. "What?" I exclaim out loud at my mother's words. "Didn't you ever notice that before? Jessica had been going for checkups, but she didn't tell us anything about it. I didn't show much of a belly when I was pregnant, and Jessica didn't show much either, so I didn't even notice." I instinctively touched my own belly. Indeed, I'm not the type whose belly stands out much either. However, I wonder if it's really possible for people not to notice someone is full-term pregnant. It's too late to say anything about it now, though. After a while, I could hear the healthy cries of a newborn. My relief was short-lived, as now a different problem presented itself. It was about how to raise this child. Jessica, a self-proclaimed housewife who is single with no job. We don't even know who the father is. However, no one could say such a thing to Jessica, who had just given birth, so we went home that day after seeing the face of the newborn baby. Jessica had a baby. I told Derek when I got home that day. "Really? Wow, Jessica's a mom now." Derek said, surprised, but he smiled happily. "Can I visit her too? Why don't we go together this weekend? I only got a quick look at the baby today, so I plan to visit properly." "That sounds great. I'll try to rearrange my work," Derek said and immediately started fiddling with his phone. All that talk about rearranging work is just lies. But I'm hoping he'll see Jessica's baby and be changed. And then, on the weekend, Derek and I headed to the hospital where Jessica was admitted. Just as we were about to enter the hospital, my phone rang. It was from that detective agency. It wasn't good to answer the phone while Derek was with me. Hesitating for a moment, Derek spoke up. "Phone call? Is it okay if I go ahead?" He seemed excited to see the baby, and I was relieved. "Thanks, I think this call will be quick, so I'll be right there," I said, parting ways with Derek and answered the phone. The call ended and I headed to the hospital room in a depressed mood. Just then, I heard voices coming from inside. "I'm really glad our baby was born safe and sound. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything." "That's all right. Just having you here, Derek, is enough for me. Let's get together and win happiness." With the phone call I just got, those words made me feel sick to my stomach. But I couldn't just leave like that. Finally, I reached out, knocked lightly, and opened the door. "How are you feeling, Jessica?" "Samantha. Glad you're here." "Of course." Derek was holding the baby, looking very happy. "Sorry I gave birth first. How healthy and adorable is she? I wonder what your baby will be like." "Oh, yes." Jessica seemed to want to be on top of me. I was also annoyed at the way she said it, but I responded shortly so as not to be provoked. Then, perhaps offended that I was not upset, Jessica intensified her words and said, "Hey, who do you think the father of this baby is? I reacted to her words and looked up. Oh, well, who's that? Is it someone we know? Samantha, we have no idea, right? Derek interrupted our conversation in a panic at those words. Jessica's pompous attitude for no reason and Derek's flustered attitude all seem ridiculous, and I scoffed. Of course, I know. Congratulations. I wish you all the best. Make sure you two make that baby happy. Samantha. Well, I'm off then. Are you going to leave now? Oh, wait for me. Derek tried to chase after me in a panic, leaving the baby on the bed, but Jessica stopped him. So, you knew all along. That makes things easier. Good for you, Derek. Well, Derek was frozen, gripped by Jessica's hand on his clothing. Leaving him behind, I walked out of the hospital room. I then headed straight to the office of the detective agency. The earlier call was to inform me that they had gathered all the evidence. The detective reluctantly added. In fact, we had observed your husband making his accustomed and familiar visits with the woman to an obstetrics and gynecology clinic located about a 10-minute drive west of your home. It was indeed an obstetrics and gynecology clinic affiliated with the hospital where Jessica gave birth. Though it was shocking, considering how Jessica had always coveted what was mine, it was entirely plausible. The conversation I had overheard only confirmed my suspicions. There was no doubt that Derek had been having an affair with Jessica. After receiving the evidence from the detective, I went straight to Derek's parents' house. Derek's baby is born. Baby's born? What do you mean? You haven't even given birth yet? They were puzzled by my words. Yes, the baby was born, but it's not my child. Please take a look at this. I presented the evidence I had received from the detective. As they read it doubtfully, their faces quickly turned pale. After finding out everything, they were profusely apologetic to me. We never imagined something like this could happen. Linda apologized deeply, in tears. Please don't apologize. I don't want you two to apologize to me. But I can't forgive Derek. I think I'll be seeking a divorce. I get it. He made a wonderful wife like you unhappy, and really, we, as parents, cannot forgive our son. We are so sorry for you. We will do whatever we can to help. Thank you. I felt from the bottom of my heart that I was lucky that my parents-in-law were the ones who understood me properly. The divorce seemed likely to proceed smoothly. After our conversation ended, their anger turned towards Derek. Really, what is Derek thinking? I'm going to call him right now. As soon as he said that, John started calling Derek. The moment the call was connected, John yelled loudly. I've heard everything from Samantha. What's this all about? Come here and explain. You've got it all wrong, please listen to me. Derek sounded desperate on the phone. The voice leaking out of the phone is so pathetic that I chuckle, but my parents-in-law do not smile. All right. We'll listen to everything you have to say, so get your ass over here. I'm sorry. I'll be right there. His voice was almost tearful, like a scolded child. Imagining his demeanor, I smirked quietly. Not wanting to face Derek, I went home afterwards. I immediately started packing. This house was a wedding gift from John. And Linda had furnished it for me. Though I was divorcing and moving out, I didn't want Jessica to take away the gifts from my in-laws. Upon expressing my feelings, my in-laws said, Of course. We gave you that house and furniture because it was for you, Samantha. But I understand if you don't want to live there. We have a condo closer to the station, you should move there for now. Thank you. Then, my in-laws quickly arranged for a new place and movers for me, and I moved out right away. Derek seems to be grounded at his parents' house, not even allowed to go to work. Linda keeps me updated on his situation. About a week later, I finally received a call from Derek. Samantha. I finally managed to call. Mom took away my phone. What do you mean you want a divorce? I mean it as it is. How can I stay married when you have a baby with another woman? It was just a fling with Jessica. I never expected her to get pregnant. Anyway, I'm on my way home now, let's talk this through. Don't go out. Stay there. Derek hung up in a panic, but I couldn't help but laugh. I had already moved out. Where exactly was he heading? Sure enough, a few minutes later, Derek called again. What do you mean there's no house? I answered, laughing at his foolish voice. The house has been sold. The new owner plans to turn it into a parking lot. You can't just do that. That house is under my dad's name. Of course, I got permission from him. The day you came back, I disposed of your things as well. So you don't have a home anymore. Just go back to your parents' house. After my moving out, John had sold the house. I was grateful to John for going that far. And as I told Derek, the new owner was indeed planning to turn the site into a parking lot. The house had been demolished a few days before. I even went to watch it. I thought it would make me a little sad, but I was refreshed by the house breaking with a loud bang. Oh no. We can't really go back. Is he standing on the now empty lot? Derek raises a desperate, weak voice. He's really wayward, even though I've told him from the start there's no way we could go back. If he regretted it so much, he shouldn't have cheated in the first place. You're being persistent. Think about what you've done at your parents' house. He must have come here to escape from the painful reprimands from his parents, but Derek no longer has a place where he can feel at ease. He brought this on himself. That night, I received a call from my parents as well. Jessica keeps saying Derek is the baby's father. It must be some mistake, right? It seems Jessica had been saying this since leaving the hospital, but my parents had been ignoring it, unable to believe it. After a few days of her consistent claims, even my mother began to doubt and decided to contact me. I'm sorry I made you ask such a tough question. Jessica's story is true. I'm already divorcing Derek. I can't believe it. I've already informed Derek's parents and they prepared a new place for me. I'm starting the divorce discussions. My mother sounded like she was crying on the other end of the phone. Even I burst into tears as my mother repeated, I'm so sorry for what Jessica did. She had nothing to apologize for, yet she felt responsible for Jessica's actions. Despite being an adult, Jessica probably couldn't imagine how her actions hurt others around her. Mom, don't worry about anything. I reassured my parents and ended the call. And under the supervision of my in-laws, the divorce discussions began. It's my fault. I fell for Jessica's temptations. Derek seemed not to want a divorce, repeatedly apologizing, but his words didn't resonate with me. If you feel so bad, why don't you marry Jessica? No way. Since the child has been born, Jessica can't raise her baby alone. You need to take responsibility for them. At my words, Derek fell silent, unable to respond. John sighed deeply. Samantha, we will also support you and the newborn. Derek, you must take responsibility and fulfill your duties to her sister and the baby. Faced with pressure from me and his father, Derek reluctantly accepted the divorce. I hope he reflects on his actions and lives a better life from now on. After our divorce, Derek remarried Jessica and started living with his parents. They lost their house and had no choice but to move in together. By that time, I was nearly due, but I was living comfortably in the house prepared by my in-laws. Sorry for taking Derek away. Jessica sent me that message, but I ignored it. Dealing with Jessica now could only cause me stress, which I couldn't afford. But that was probably what she wanted. I wonder what your baby will be like. They're cousins and also siblings. It's hilarious, isn't it? Well, I'm younger and more beautiful, so I'm sure my baby will be better than yours. She kept sending messages like that, completely disregarding anyone else's feelings. Hey. I haven't received a baby shower gift from you yet? She even had the audacity to demand a gift from me now that I was set to be a single mother. Are you home? I'll come over and give it to you soon. I kept ignoring her for a long time, but I replied so to the message begging for a baby shower gift and immediately headed to their house. Samantha. How are you feeling? Linda had continued to care for me even after the divorce and treated me very well. On this day, she welcomed me into their home as soon as I arrived. Is Jessica here? Derek is off today too, so she's probably around. Linda hesitated slightly, showing her concern for me. I smiled warmly and said, Great. I brought a baby shower gift for Jessica and Derek. Upon entering, I sat in the living room while Linda called for Jessica. Jessica, holding the baby and looking happy. Unaware of the impending downfall, she looked at me and laughed mockingly, as if to belittle me. "So you finally brought the baby shower gift?" "Well, it's not like I'm short on money." I handed Jessica a large envelope. It was thick. Jessica frowned suspiciously at the envelope, which was clearly too big to contain just cash. "What's this?" "I wasn't planning on giving it, but this is my gift to you." Jessica cautiously handed the baby to Derek and took the envelope, looking inside. Jessica's face is turning pale as she looks at several sheets of paper. "What is this? What does this mean?" She then shouted angrily at Derek, glaring at him. Derek, puzzled, peeked at the documents Jessica was holding. And his face turned pale. "I don't know. It wasn't me." "It's obviously you, Derek." I smirked at their exchange. The envelope actually contained investigative reports from a detective. I had already shown them to my in-laws, but they contained shocking facts unknown to Jessica. It revealed that Jessica was not Derek's only affair partner. He had a total of 4 affairs. Jessica was the third of them. The first one seemed to be the married woman and was the wife of a subordinate in his company. This was the woman Derek was really into. According to Linda, her husband eventually found out, and it was only after marrying Jessica that Derek finally broke it off. The second one was a 20-year-old girl he met through a dating app. Surprisingly, it wasn't Jessica but this girl who was seen entering the obstetrics and gynecology clinic with him. The detective found out that it was apparently a hospital visit for an abortion. The third one was Jessica. The last one was Jessica's friend, whom she had introduced to Derek. Of course I knew all about it, but now Derek is a complete stranger. Having any affair was bad enough, but having my sister involved made it unforgivable. That alone was enough for me never to forgive Derek. I had planned to shroud this in the darkness as long as Jessica was properly remorseful and apologetic. But since Jessica would not stop being on top of me by any means, I decided to push her off top of that mountaintop. How terrible. You liar. As expected, Jessica broke down crying in hysteria. Despite holding her sweet baby, she repeatedly hurled insults at Derek and physically lashed out at him. "What's all this noise?" At that moment, John came home. Seeing me, he seemed pleased and greeted me with, "Samantha. You were here?" Then he glared at Jessica and Derek. "What are you doing yelling in front of the baby? Please listen to me, Derek has." "Oh my, they know everything Derek did, you know?" I laughed at Jessica who was freaking out. "Oh, you mean?" John said, exasperated. "After all, it happened before you married Jessica, and you're no different, having abetted infidelity. Do you even have the right to blame Derek?" "I think only Samantha has the right to blame him." Jessica bit her lip in frustration, knowing her in-laws were not on her side. "Also, I've arranged a new home for the 3 of you to live in." "Really?" Despite her fury, Jessica's eyes lit up at John's words. "I've negotiated to get the rent down to $800 a month. I got a $30 discount because the apartment is owned by a friend of mine's company. Now, get the hell out of here." But the moment Derek heard those words, he looked despairing again. "Wait. Move out? What do you mean? And why does Samantha get a new house while we get a rental with rent to pay? I've also arranged a new job for you. It's a sales position at the real estate company." "A new job? Are you kicking me out of the company where I'm supposed to be the next president?" The two of them confronted John. However, John said with a smile, "When did I ever say you were going to be the next president? You just assumed that on your own. Besides, I can't keep someone in the company who messes around with an employee's family." "Pack your bags and leave," he said. The two who had been arguing before were now united, continuing to protest against John. I was dumbfounded as I watched, but Linda muttered beside me, "It seems like John had been planning to kick Derek out since you divorced. Both we really thought of you as a true member of our family." I was more than happy to hear that. And I laughed heartily at the heavenly punishment my sister and her husband received for losing their home, their jobs, and their trust. They moved into the house John had arranged, starting a new life. It was a 15-minute walk from the station, but perfectly located next to a pediatrician and just a 3-minute walk from a supermarket, ideal for raising a child. According to my parents, Jessica complained about not being able to go out much, but given her tendencies, more distractions would likely lead to more spending. I hope they would do their best raising their child in the home John found for his grandchild. Totally whipped by Jessica, Derek feels out of place while working as a salesperson for the real estate company. Interestingly, this company seems to be run by the family of the subordinate Derek had an affair with. I don't know if the company is aware of Derek's deeds, but I'm sure he must feel uncomfortable at work. Moreover, with her husband's income significantly reduced, Jessica will not be able to live the elegant life she had hoped for. It's a life neither Jessica nor Derek had ever imagined, but it's the situation they've brought upon themselves. No matter what happens, I hope they just make their child happy. Afterwards, I gave birth to a healthy boy. Both my in-laws and my parents adore him. Although the family ties with my in-laws have been severed, I still live in that apartment, maintaining contact with them. My job is remote work for John's company, which I have been doing without pay. Now, as a paid employee, I earn enough to raise my child on my own. I may have been plain, but I've always valued people and acted with integrity. I believe that this is the result of that. I didn't have a good husband, but I was blessed with a very adorable son. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to work from home while raising my child.